Hello and welcome back to BookTube with Amy. Today is going to be my most recent weekly wrap up. So this year for my wrap ups, they're going to be exactly the same, but I've also got a wee notebook, and after I've finished a book I'm just writing down like a couple of sentences about it, and like I'm never going to script my videos. I know that a lot of people script and that's absolutely grand. It's just personally know what works for me. I prefer just to come and open my mouth and let my belly rumble. That just feels a wee bit more natural to me. But I feel like sometimes, especially right, if I've either really hated a book or I've really enjoyed a book, sometimes I'm just like, my brain's drawing a blank because I just have like so many feelings about the book that I didn't really know how to express them in the best way. So I've got a wee notebook and it literally is just a couple of sentences, and I'll just use that for like jogging my memory a wee bit as to how I was feeling like right after I finished the book to talk to you guys. So if you see me looking down or whatever in my wrap ups, that's what I'm going to be looking at. So the first book I read was Call Down the Hawk by Maggie Stiefvater. So I started this at the end of last year and I finished it at the beginning of this year. This is the first book in the Dreamers trilogy or Dreamers cycle, which is like the companion series to the Raven cycle. So this is all about Ronan Lynch and his family. So I adore Maggie Stiefvater and literally anything that I have ever read that she has written. I only discovered her writing last year or the year before and have slowly been collecting her back catalogue and working my way through reading it, and normally her writing grips me from the very beginning. This book didn't. I found this book really quite difficult to get into, and I didn't know if it was because like, it's weird because you already know the characters, like you know Ronan, you know his brothers, Declan and I can't remember the younger one's name. So like you already know them, you already know a bit about where they've came from and their background. So like there's no even a lot of build up in this book, to be honest, because you already know all that for the Raven cycle. So I didn't know why I found this so hard to get into it. I really don't. I have been reflecting on it to try and think. I was a bit slumpy when I picked this up. We all know I hit a mad slump at the end of last year. So I didn't know if just getting into this, I wasn't really in like the right mindset for it. And the fact that I really loved the Raven cycle so much that maybe knowing like this is the end, I was a wee bit like, you know, nervous about picking it up. I just found it to be quite slow. Like it took a while for stuff to actually start happening, and I feel like although there wasn't a lot of build up and we didn't really get to know the characters and stuff as much, or like their abilities, etc, because Maggie Stiefvater was bringing in a lot of other characters and we were getting stuff from their perspectives, that there was a lot of build up and their chapters were quite slow, but I understand that they would need to be, but it just, the pacing felt quite off for me. And I feel in this one that there was just like a lot of getting ready for the next two books and sort of setting up what is going to happen or what could potentially happen. And so I think maybe that's also why it made it feel quite slow. It was very much like setting the scene for what's going to come next, as opposed to, you know, getting actual real exciting plot points. I wasn't sure how I was going to feel having Declan be a main character in this, because I really hated him in the Raven cycle, and so when I picked this up and I realised Declan was going to be like a main character, we were going to get stuff from his perspective, I was like, oh, like really not sure how I'm going to feel about this. But actually I really came round to liking him, and I think that Maggie Stiefvater gave him like such a cracking arc for the Raven cycle into the Dreamers trilogy, because I never in my life would have thought that I would have loved Declan, but I actually really did enjoy his character. I think the biggest thing that was missing for me in this book is I feel like there wasn't a lot of time spent with Ronan and his character development. I think that maybe that was a deliberate choice to sort of make him take a wee bit of a back seat in this one so that they could spend time with some of the other characters who are going to be important in this new world, and you know, to establish that it's not just going to be the Ronin show for fans who obviously know him for the Raven cycle. I'm unsure, you know, Maggie Stiefvater didn't consult me when she was writing this book, so I didn't really know her internal thoughts and processes, but that's my assumption. And I feel like that didn't work effectively for me, because I was picking this up based on being such a fan of the Raven cycle, and while I get that the other characters needed to have their day, like, I'm here for my boy Ronan, and I felt like he was done a wee bit dirty in this book, but I will definitely continue this series. This was a 3-star for me. I think that's the lowest I've ever rated a Maggie Stiefvater book before. It was still enjoyable, you know, cute YA. Obviously enjoy the world because the world had already been established. I've got the other 2 and I will read them this year, hopefully. Next up, I read A Battery Life and Death by Ellie Alexander. This is the second in the Bake Shop Mystery series that I started last year. So this counts towards my I seriously need to finish this challenge, as a series I have already continued. Buzzing. So this series takes place in a town called Ashland in Oregon, and your main character Juliet owns a bakery called Tort with her mum. And in this instalment, like cooking show comes to film in Ashland. Is it like Take the Cake, I think it's called. It's essentially like a baking competition, and it tours around loads of different wee towns in America, and you know, picks like however many pastry chefs to complete. I think it's 5, and they all compete and get voted off, so it'll last 5 weeks in the one location. They get voted off, and then like the winner wins a money prize. Tort is doing a lot better since Juliet returned home. She returned home in the first book to find it was in a wee bit of trouble financially, and they're doing much better. Things are on the up and up, but they need new ovens, and so Juliet gets asked to be a contestant on this baking show, and although she would normally be like, absolutely not, she decides that they could use the money. So she takes part in this baking show. And obviously there's a murder, because it's a cosy mystery series, and yet again Juliet finds herself involved and at the centre of this murder investigation. And even though she is warned by everybody in her life not to be involved and to stay away and not to be trying to investigate or sleuthing because of the events of the first book, she doesn't listen, and she obviously gets involved and sleuths and puts herself in danger. It's just absolutely phenomenal. I really love this series. I have the 3rd one, and like, it was a struggle not to just jump right into the 3rd one, to be honest, because it's just so brilliant. The town is just, I can picture it so vividly in my head. I just love it. I know all the people, like there's loads of recurring characters in this who are just like wee side characters. Maybe people who like own other wee shops in this town who'll pop in, and like they all just pop. They're all so vibrant because you know them so well, and you really do just feel like a wee part of the town when you read this. And like all the food chat in here is just spectacular. That is one of the things that I enjoy most, is cooking and baking. And so when I have a book that really talks about that a lot, it's just like doubly relaxing for me. That might sound stupid, but it's just how it works for me, and I really enjoy it. Juliet is a pastry chef, but she's also a really good cook as well, and so you get like a lot of her hints and tips. You know, she'll just talk about maybe adding a wee bit of this or trying that, and there's like a lot of really long cooking scenes in here, and I just really enjoy that. They are described so brilliantly. You can just imagine how the food is going to smell and taste, and there's just something so comforting as well. Like everything she makes with other people in mind, and so I just think it's really sweet. that when she's cooking at Tor, or you know, she's making something for a certain individual, she puts so much thought into what they might enjoy, and she takes like loads of different things into account, and I just really love that. Juliet's such a cracking main character, and there is still a wee bit of unresolved issues between her and her ex in this book, and so her new romance hasn't moved forward hugely in this one from the first book, but we did get like a wee maybe think I love you confession, which was adorable. So I am definitely continuing this series this year. This was a 5-star read for me and I thoroughly enjoyed it. Then next up I read Mayflies by Andrew O'Hagan, and this was the Fiction Addiction book club pick for January. I'm not going to say too much about this book because we're going to have a live show. It's going to be on my channel. I'll put a wee announcement up on my community tab when that's going to be. And I didn't want to spoil the plot for anybody in the group who is still to start it, because I know we were all reading it at different points, but I just couldn't wait any longer to read this because we actually got this when Ange was up visiting last year, and it's like we knew then that we were going to be starting this book club, and I knew that I wanted this to be my pick, so we've been putting off reading it since then. But then like the hype really got in December, like to just pick it up and binge it. So aye, it's been a long time coming and I just couldn't wait anymore, and Anne's just the same. This is written by a Scottish author, so this will count towards my goal of trying to read 12 books by Scottish authors in 2023, which I'm really chuffed about, and I like that my first book club pick was also by a Scottish author. Buzzing about it. So this is about two boys, James, or more affectionately named Noodles, Noodles and Tully, and they are best pals. They have a group of pals who they have grown up with in Glasgow in the 80s, and they are film enthusiasts and music enthusiasts and just all round absolute geeks for everything that they love and enjoy. And they decide to go away on a once-in-a-lifetime boys trip to Manchester for like the festival of their dreams, all their favourite bands playing. And they do this to have like one big last weekend together, an absolute blowout before Noodles leaves to go to university. And so this is sort of feel like a bittersweet festival for them, because they're getting to see all their favourite bands and they're living their life, but you know, in a way it feels a wee bit like a goodbye. And so that's the first half of the book. The second half of the book jumps to maybe like 30 years later or something, and Noodles and Tully are grown men who are in relationships, they have jobs, houses, all of that malarkey, and it's really about their friendship and their love for each other. And I don't really want to say too much more than that because I feel like anything I say is going to be a spoiler at this stage, and I really do think that the best way to go into this book is not to know what is coming. And like, I fucking love a spoiler, do I know? So like, if I'm saying that, you can, it must really be true, because like, I don't care. I will read about a bajillion books of spoilers. It doesn't really bother me. I quite like a spoiler sometimes, but I think with this one, to get the impact of everything, it's better to go into it knowing much about it. So this book was a bit of a weird read for me. The first, it's like split up into two parts. So the first part's when they're younger and the second part's obviously when they're older. And the first part for me, I don't know, I felt like it was very slow, and I fucking hate that. I really didn't like a slow book. I want to be getting flung into all the action. And I feel like when they're younger as well, because they're like in a bigger group of pals, there's 3 other pals that you sort of get to know and all. And I don't know, I just felt like maybe the first part of the book would have been better if it just focused on Noodles and Tully, and we didn't have like as much time with these other side characters. And although they sort of come up again in the second part of the book, like they're nae the focus by any means. The focus is these 2 guys. But the second half of the book, astounding. Really loved it. I feel like the writing was better in the second half of the book. I didn't know, I felt like the first half of the book was quite flowery writing, and I'm not really a fan of that. And obviously with it being a Scottish author, it's got a lot of Scottish dialect, you know, a lot of Scottish phrasing, a lot of Scottish swearing, and I am saying Scottish swearing because I feel like Scottish swearing is different from other swearing. And that juxtaposed with the flowerier writing, I just felt was a bit of a disconnect. It just didn't really work for me. But then the second half of the book, I don't know if it was because we had more plot happening or because the second half of the book, a lot more of it was actually dialogue. It just flowed a wee bit more naturally for me, and I really enjoyed it, and I didn't have any issues that I had in the beginning with the second half of this book. I thoroughly loved it. I thought it was fantastic, and I was swithering about how I was going to rate this based on my experience with the first half, but I didn't think I could give this book anything other than a 5-star, just because of the absolute journey it took me on, and I just thought it was brilliantly written. I think that it talks about topics that aren't spoken about a lot brilliantly. There's a lot of different opinions and a lot of conflict in this book, although that is never the focus. It is always just sort of there. And I thought it was done excellently. I also just need to give total credit to Andrew O'Hagan, because I feel like in Scotland we didn't always portray male friendships in the most positive light, and we didn't always encourage our younger males to love their friends and, you know, have feelings. I think that in Scotland we're still a wee bit backwards when it comes to that, and if two young guys are pals, you know, they can't be overly affectionate or say that they love each other or talk about their feelings, because they'll be labelled as gay, or, you know, they'll be slagged off for some other reason, and like, that's a load of shite. I think it's absolutely pish, and it's something that was really highlighted to me last year when I read another book, Boyfriends by Michael Pedersen. And so I feel like, having read that book, we had a lot of his negative experiences for when he was younger and what it was like to grow up as a boy who just wanted to tell their pals they loved them, and then to go into this book where Tully and Noodles love each other unashamedly, and, you know, they'll tell each other and they'll do anything they can for each other, and it just really celebrated that male friendship in Scotland. I just really loved, and it made my heart so happy. I don't know if I've ever read a more fantastic friendship than the friendship created by Andrew O'Hagan in this book between the two of them. It was absolutely brilliant. The BBC have also done an adaptation of this, and me and Simon watched it last night. It's 2 episodes, and I would highly recommend everybody to watch it if you're able to get the BBC in your location. It was phenomenal. The casting in it was perfect, and it near enough is a lift and shift for the book. So if, you know, you really enjoyed the book, I would highly recommend checking that out. The dialogue is spot on. There are a lot of lines that are just exactly Andrew O'Hagan's words on the page, and it was just really lovely to see it done. It was fantastic. I truly adored it, and I would highly recommend everybody and their dog to pick it up. So that is everything that I have been reading this week. Hopefully you're enjoying everything that you're reading at the moment. Thank you very much for watching. Please like and subscribe if you haven't already, and I will catch you in the next one. Bye!